Hi, I'm Paul Brody. We're in my shop, and the man behind the camera is Mitch. We're going to do a frame repair today. This is a Romax. It's an early one. It's number 258. And can you see how the down tube here has a wrinkle? It's a fair size wrinkle. So I think there was some pilot error or something. Maybe hit something large. So we have some pieces here. We have a new down tube, we have a head tube, and we have a braze on. Those are the pieces we need to change it. You could only change the down tube, except the problem with only changing on the down tube is the head tube gets reamed a couple times, and there's 2 heat cycles that get put into that. There's also a very little bit of a wrinkle on the top tube. You can feel it just slightly. So when I take off the down tube, I can hold a rod in the vise and I can do a little bit of auto body on the top tube, make that smooth again. So first thing we're going to do is to hold this in the frame jig, see what the angles are, because this might be a little bit increased in head angle. So we'll just see what happens. From how I've got it set up, it says the head angle right now is 69.5, and it was supposed to be 70.5, but I don't believe it's gone back all that much. But anyway, that's a good starting point. What we would normally do is to take a hacksaw and cut this tube, for example, on the down tube, and then we would melt off the braze, and that would separate. And then we would melt this area here for the down tube. But what I'd like to do is to take it off in just one piece so that we can leave it and have it as a souvenir for the person that owns the frame. So I'm going to hold it in the park stand now, and let's see if I can loosen all the braze and see if I can separate the head tube from the top tube. I put a little bit of flux on the top tube. It protects it a little bit from the heat. So I'm going to get a fairly strong flame going. There you go, it's starting to melt. So most of the heat is going onto the braze and the head tube, not the top tube. What's left on there I'll heat up. And then I use a wire brush just to brush it off. Even though there's hardly any braze left, I think that it's not going to want to. Oh, look at that! It did. It just popped off. I'll switch the torch up a little bit more because we've got quite a mass of bronze here around the bottom bracket. So that flame has a good hiss to it now. It's a heavy wall bottom bracket shell. If you measure the ID, it's 1 9/16 inches. And the bottom bracket shells you buy now are 1.5 inches, so that's extra wall thickness. There we go, it's starting to melt. Okay, so mission successful. It came off in one piece. So what I'm doing here, I'm just roughly centering it. And if you see there's a gap on each side. See there's more of a gap on this side. So I just make an adjustment. I'm just doing this by eye. I'm not using the digital readout. And this works fine for some things. Like on the bottom bracket, it's okay because you don't see if it's a little bit up or down. I think that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to lock the table. way through. Here's the existing head tube. I'm going to measure it. I'm going to set the vernier at 0. And then on the head tube that I have, I'm going to make it, say, 50 thou longer, because after the brazing, it's going to get a little bit shorter on the inside, and then I got to face it. So by making it a touch longer, that's the right thing to do. My vernier says it is 137 thou long, so I need to take off 87 thou. That gives me the 50 thou longer that I wanted. So I set the compound to 0. There's my 0. And then when I touch it, I know I got 87 thou approximately to take off. Got 52 thou, so that's fine. That's what I wanted. So there's the bump. There's the bump on top, although it's a pretty thick tube. I'm just going to file it, I think. So if I put felt pin on here and I file it, then we can see what's going on, because there's some kind of a, it could be a low spot. So it's got a low spot in it, and I can feel it with my finger. So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to put a piece of metal inside, and then if I tap it with an auto body hammer, I can make it smooth again. So I'm going to hold this in the vise like this. I'm going to be hammering on it, so I've got to make it fairly tight. I've got an auto body hammer. It's fairly flat. It's not like a ball peen hammer, which has quite a radius on it, not as much as I'm exaggerating. And you always hit at a glancing blow if you can. So let's see what I can do here. A little bit of auto body. I have to watch I don't dent this. Looks like new. So I've got all this extra seat tube here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up on the jig. I'm going to use a regular bottom bracket so that I get the fit happening in between the bottom bracket and the head tube and the down tube. And then when I know that it's mitered properly and fits, then I will make the down tube fit into here. I think what I'll do first though, I'll put the frame back in here, because then I know where the head tube is. I'm going to increase the angle 1/2 a degree. I'm going to put it out to 70. And then I'll take out the frame. I'll put a bottom bracket in here and make the down tube fit. So it's kind of a two-stage process. So it's fitting now. So what I'm going to do is to move the front center out until the head tube is still in contact with the top tube. Oh, I see. If I slacken it, I go to 69. This could have been one of the ones, okay, because on the Romax, I think they started out at 69, and then at some point we changed the head angle to 70.5. So I'm slackening it. I was a little incorrect earlier. I guess I'm having one of those days. So there we go. We got 69 degrees. Now we have to miter the down tube. So I'm going to take out the frame. Inch-and-a-half bottom bracket. I've got the down tube offset so that it's more in line with where I'm holding the head, the down tube against the head tube. I look through here. I need my 1/4 inch at the bottom. That's for the fillet brazing. And then I put the ruler like so. And then I make a mark. This is my miter mark. I want the ruler to be level. That's what I'm mitering up to. And I just do a quick check, and that looks okay. So I need to hacksaw right about there. That's my hacksaw. Put H for hacksaw, M for miter. So I need to mark the center now of the tube, because what I want to do next is to drill the holes for the water bottle bosses, and I'll show you the fixture we used to use. I wanted to use it, but it's not possible. So if I put the tube on like that, that's going to locate it for the up and down on the miter. So now if I take the ruler and I hold it horizontal at a 45 to the tube and I make a mark, that's going to be the center of the tube. So that's kind of hard to see, but I can see it in the light here, and that's the center right there. Now if I take my extrusion, now I've got the center of the tube. So that goes like that. So you can see where the holes have to go. So what I want to show you is the fixture we used to use. I made this years ago, and it's done thousands of frames. This is what gets used for the seat tube. So here are the drill bushings. You can see they're hardened inserts, and they go into the holes. The problem why I can't use this today like I wanted to is because the holes that get used, can you see how this lines up? So I could drill one hole because all these other ones haven't got any bushings in them. But this is what we used to do. We used to put in the bottom bracket here. So this would fit in like that. And then we would put this on top like that, and then we'd go over to the drill press and use a center drill, and you just drill straight through. And those are your holes. There's no marking. You don't have to find the center. You don't have to measure 2.5 inches. That's how you make things a little faster. But it's not going to happen today. So I'm just going to mark them by hand and then walk over to the drill press. I'm going to mark one hole, and then I'm going to measure 2.5 inches, because this is an eyeball here. If you mark it wrong, then the water bottle cage won't fit. And I punch hard enough so I get a little bit of an indent. That helps the center drill to go through. Okay, punched. I'm going to ovalize this next over in the arbor press. I've got my flat bar here. I think you've seen this process before, so I need to ovalize it this way. So when the tube is held in between the plates, I have to line this up in a vertical plane. This is my ichrometer here, and that looks good. So we'll give it a little ovalization. Not too much, just a little bit. And the reason we're ovalizing is because the head tube and the down tube are almost the same size, and you need at least 1/8 of an inch on each side for the fillet brazing. See here on the other end, you see how the head tube is slightly larger, but not much. Whereas now, we've got 1/8 of an inch basically on each side. That's good. We need to find the angle of the miter now. That's the next step. So what I'm doing is I'm holding this 1/4 inch above the bottom of the head tube, because that's the space I want for the fillet brazing. And then I put this on to the top tube, the down tube, sorry. And then I line up the ruler with this rod. And that looks pretty good right there. So it says 67 degrees, but you take that off the 90, so it's 23 degrees. 1 5/16 is the correct size hole saw for a 1-inch head tube. So I'm going to miter, and I'm going to leave it a little long, because I do not want this tube to be too short. If the tube ends up too short, I can't use it. So this is probably the most critical part of the whole operation, is to get the miter just right so it fits into an existing frame. So I'm going to edge up to the line. But I won't go right to the line. That's close enough. Okay, so I still have to go down a little bit, and we also have to realize that I've got 1.5 inch bottom bracket, and in the frame it's 1 9/16, so that's going to move the down tube up by 30 thou. Not a huge amount. So the miter is not bad. It's I could take a file and file the bottom a little bit, but I'm going to take off another cut, because can you see here how it needs to be at 1/4 inch? That's about where my fingernail is, but you can see it's about a little over 1/2 inch. Okay, so it's got about 1/4 inch. I might, well, we'll just have to try the real frame and see how it fits. See, that doesn't, let's see how that fits. Oh, look at that. That's not bad. If I do a little bit of filing on the bottom, that should be good. Okay, there you go. It's about 1/4 inch there. So I'm going to take off the burrs. I'm going to sand both ends. I'll drill the holes for the water bottle bosses, and then it can get tacked. Okay, we are tacked. Here we go, a little bit of preheat into the bottom bracket because it's such a large shell and it's got a whole bunch of bronze holding on the seat tube and the chain stays, so good to do a preheat. So I got the cone, it's a little bit of ways away, and I'm putting most of the heat on the bottom bracket. Time for the big rod now. I've got a pretty big flame. I might have to switch it down once I get going. I think it's too hot for fillet braising, but it was good to go around with the nickel silver because everything was still coming up to temperature. It makes a big difference just going up or down just a little bit with the size of the cone and the torch. I can't really overemphasize that enough. If you're just getting into it, experiment. Make your tip a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and just see how it works. When you get it right, and you've got a little bit of skill, it's a good feeling to get the braise on there and have it melting just nicely. I use the torch as a flashlight so I can see what I'm looking at. I'm okay with that. All the flux has been soaked off the bottom bracket shells, so I'm going to do some filing. I've got a spiral roll. What I've got here is a centering groove, that's what I call it. It's a nice arc and it shows the middle of the fillet braise, and then the second step is to edge out. I gently ease out that radius until it matches onto the tube. And I have to be sure that I don't get a lot of sparks. The spiral roll is done. So we'll do a little bit of belt sanding now, just on the bottom part, smooth it out. This is my bottom bracket taps. So the left-hand side is a right-hand thread, and the right-hand side is a left-hand thread. So each tap spins the same way. It's going in very easy. I think a part of the reason is because the bottom bracket shell is so thick. 1 9/16 OD. That is from the 80s, most definitely. It's going in nice and easy. There you go, it's bottomed out. So now we'll do the other side. And we're to the bottom. we have the Campagnolo inserts. You have to feed one into the other, then you wind backwards. This is so you can face the bottom bracket, and then you check the alignment. It's got to be under the surface of the bottom bracket here, a couple millimeters, that's what I like. And then they get snug with each other. You feel it getting snug. You don't have to crank it, but it has to be held. A little bit of slack to start, that's what you want. Here we go. Let's have a look and see if it cuts all the way around. Oh yes, it's got to shine all the way around. That's good. Second side. All the way around. Okay, we're good. We're going to check alignment now. Grab my red felt pen in case I need it. You can hear it, it's just touching. Ooh, so it's got to be pulled a little bit. So we're going to pull it this way. Always put a mark to show which way you're pulling it, because if you lose track, you really have no idea. I can't hang on to the head tube because it's only got a couple tacks on it, so I have to hold on to the down tube. Give it a pull. Feels like a strong tube. You can hear it just touching. Look at that. Okay, we gotta check the seat tube. Okay, we got, it's almost touching there. And over here, oh, that's fine. So that ended up pretty easy. We're gonna check the head tube with the seat tube now. We're gonna go to the surface table. And the seat tube is overlised quite a bit, so this block is going to have to be up here somewhere. Can't have it down here. And we have a little space there. So I've only got 2 tacks here, so I'm going to put this under the hook. That's what I call that. And give it a little bit of pressure. See what happens. See, it bends really easy because there's only 2 tacks. Now I've got the seat stay touching the table there. Okay, let's see what it says now. That's what I want. So, I'm going to braze that up. And I think I'll go the opposite way with a nickel silver, because maybe it'll pull the way I want it to. It's a little bit of an experiment. I've got the cone fairly close again, and it's basically vertical. And every time I bring it to the frame, I'm melting bronze. Left side, right side. Because when you do one side, the other side gets a chance to cool just momentarily. And that's all it needs to set it up. And we're full circle. Let's check the alignment. Oh, look at that. It's got a gap right there, which is what I want. Perfect. Good. So we're going to do this one now. So actually that worked really well. So I did the nickel silver this way and I did the brazing the other way. So I did a combination of clockwise and anti-clockwise. I'm brazing backwards now because I'm right-handed. I've got the rod in my left hand and I should be going right to left, but I'm not. But it seems to be working. So on the other side, I'm going to go the other way. I'm trying to calculate how much the brazing is going to pull the frame, because what I'm hoping is that when I finish this braze, the frame is perfectly aligned. That would be a perfect world. We'll see. Okay, fillet brazing. I'm kind of working the bronze along. I'm pulling the rod while it's molten. Makes it fairly smooth. Okay. I'm happy with that. This is the test. I hope it's good. Look at that. You can hear it. Can you hear it touching? It's perfect. So I'm going to silver solder on water bottle bosses now, and you do not want to get the flux on the threads, because the flux, oops, even if you soak it in hot water, the flux doesn't want to come out of the threads. It's very, very persistent. So you go around it very lightly. I've got a very small flame. Got my silver solder, not nickel silver. And the fixture is made out of a coping saw. I can't use the regular fixture because it ends up being on the seat stay. So the angle is wrong. So I get my cone really, really close. So what I do is I put a blob on each end and then I flow it round. Right now I'm actually resting the torch on the two. There we go. So I can move this. And the torch is almost touching. See how it flows around? It's very nice when it flows like that. Yeah, I'm resting the torch. That's how close I am. Just flow it around. So what we're looking for now, see here, is there a heat stain? There's no heat stain there. That's how fast the silver solder goes on. If you have a big blue heat stain there, I would say you put extra heat on there that you did not need. That's what I would say. I put a brand new belt on. It's gonna cut like butter. Good. Just need to do some fine fingering now. If you look at the bands of bronze, they're smooth. There's no in and out anywhere showing high spots, low spots. See, that's good. So we're gonna face the head tube now. Go to the lathe. We've got the lathe set up. Got a little bit of slack to start. And here we go. Shiny all the way around, so that's good. Side 2. Shiny all around, it's good. That looks okay. I'll put a small tack there with the silver solder, then I'll take it off and check, and then I can move it with a pair of, what do you call those things?
Crescent wrench.
Thank you. Yes, crescent wrench, a small crescent wrench. Get a small flame here. There you go, that looks okay. It's got a very small tack, very small tack. And a little bit of a, if you break this off, it's a problem. I felt that move, and that's basically in line with the tube, so we're good. Okay, looks like it's on. That's our Romex down tube repair. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care, stay safe.